It'd be hard to talk about iconic muscle cars and not talk about the 1969 Camaro, and this is our most recent build. All right, this 69 Camaro belongs to David Hanley. He's been a really good customer of ours. Actually also owns the 63 C10 in the shop. That's all LS powered, pro charged, big wide wheels and tires. So to say he's got a good taste in cars, he definitely does. So this 69 Camaro came to us. He actually had it in another shop. Little bit of that horror story where working on the car, he's paying him money, not a lot's happening kind of thing. We hate to see that, but the car came in, it was all in primer, and first hurdle was kind of, well, where do we start? Because the body work had already been done, it was already in primer, but one of our things here at the shop is we don't like to paint over other people's work. Not that to say it's not good work, it's just we can't guarantee it because we don't know what's under there. We don't know the foundation from the metal out. So the first thing we did, we ran a block over it real quick just to see if it was straight, and man, it was laser straight. It was perfect. But at the end of the day, we told David, like, well, still don't know if we can guarantee it. We don't know what's under there. So he said, you know what, just strip it. I want to guarantee. Man, this is a good thing we did. So we stripped it down to bare metal, and one of the first things we found where the quarter skins were put on the car, they were only tack welded on. It was lipped up here, and there was a tack weld about every 6 inches, and that was literally the only thing holding the quarter panels on the car. So over time, you know, it might have held up and look okay, but over time that would have started to crack and stuff like that. So that's why we always strip them down to metal and start with a good foundation. So basically, we didn't get too carried away with metal mods on this one. We just sleeked it up a little bit. We cut and tucked the bumpers front and rear. We tightened everything up. We gave it good tight gaps all the way around. We wanted a really popping color though, so we started with molten orange, which is a tri-coat. I added quite a bit of pearl into the inner coat clear, so it really brought it out and makes it pop. It's got a lot of greens and golds in it, so that looks really cool. And we did a carbon spoiler on the back, and he actually had a carbon hood. So when we put the hood on, the only problem with that is it was so wavy, it just made it hard for us to run it. So we actually ended up going with a steel hood. So what I did, some custom paint here. I added a carbon accent, just did some airbrush stuff and made it look like the hood is carbon. Did a little shadowing, and it really made a cool effect on the car. And we kept some of the stock, you know, 69 Camaro trim, the drip rails around the windshield. We still wanted that 69 Camaro look, but under the hood, didn't come in 69. 6.2 LS3 from LME. This thing's putting out over 600 horse, and man, that is just enough power to get you in trouble, and I love it. She sounds mean. She is mean. She'll get up and go, but it's interesting with this car. David, when he decided he wanted to build it 10-15 years ago, he started putting together parts then. So he was buying stuff, he was collecting parts. So roughly 10 years ago, he had an LS built for it in his hometown. We don't know who built it, they're not around anymore, but when we got the engine in, we fired it up the first time, we had good oil pressure. It was a bit noisy. It was kind of that uneasy noise, but it seemed to run pretty good. So we kept checking oil pressure, everything seemed good, and David and I made the decision, like, well, it's already in there, it's wired up, it's good to go, it's been built for 10 years, let's see what it does. Well, it took about a month to grenade that sucker. We got out, autocrossed it a little bit, had some fun with it, and it just didn't take long, it gave way. It just didn't have good parts in it. I don't think it was built very well. So we yanked that one back out of there. Thank goodness we didn't build it. We haven't had one go on us yet, but we got this one from LME, and it's been nothing but a beast so far. We built the twin air intake tubes. We've got fuel injection, Holley fuel rails. We've got power brakes. We did a few chrome and polish accessory drive parts. We fabricated some metal panels up front just to kind of clean that up, cover up the radiator. Just slicked out the firewall, didn't go crazy. Wiring's tucked out nice and tight, so it's just a really clean car. But as we said, with this power, it's set up to autocross. Like, we bash on this thing. He's going to race it. He's going to run it. So it's a cool showpiece that he can show off, but it's also going to get beat on. So speaking of autocross, coming down to the wheels, we've got center lines, big brakes, one finger and move the steering wheel, and man, that she's gone. So it handles really good for that, and it's a ton of fun out on the road. Coming to the interior. Couple of racing seats. We didn't go crazy in here. Now, David is a super tall dude. And it sucks for me because I'm really short. So we set his seats down as low to the floor as we could. We made the seat frame where it was a lot further back. Basically, we could not run a stock Camaro rear seat because the seats were back into it. So when I sit in this car, I look like this because I can barely see out of the window. So thanks, David. But anyway, he sits in it real good, looks good. We did some TMI panels, basically a stock style carpet billet wheel. We did fabricate the console. We wanted something to, you know, spruce it up just a little bit. So that's all 1-inch tubing that's bent through there. We did a sheet metal panel in between there where I did the carbon paint effect through that. And then the car, we can run it off the tablet. So we can tune it from there, the radio's through there. So that ends up being really cool that we can use that. All right, so everything looks really cool and clean in the interior. Now for the trunk, we actually paneled that out. So it's all panels that kind of matches the door panel. But it's interesting what all we did back there. It's kind of crazy. So we've got a sound system back there, but our computer and everything that runs the car that we normally mount under the dash or in the engine compartment is all in the trunk. And it took quite a bit of work to do that. We spent probably 2 days, maybe more, extending the wiring harness in this car. We extended it about 12 feet. So we spent a couple days just soldering wires and extending everything to be able to put all of the electronics back here. So essentially, other than the wiring for the gauges, there's nothing under the dash. It's so clean, it doesn't make sense. So we ended up leather paneling that to cover up all of his electronics, but they're easily accessible. So ended up being a cool feature to the car and something totally different. But I hate wiring, man. And that was a lot of wiring. So other than that, that's pretty much it. It's a really badass car. It's really fun to drive. It's really fast. It handles like nobody's business. And man, she'll get down and go. So why don't I show you that? You like to go fast, Alex? You want a burnout right here? That's a 1969 Camaro. Been a fun one to build. Definitely a badass car. It looks really cool. Handles great. And as you can see, it's got a whole lot of power. I think I scared the crap out of Alex over here. He needs to go change his pants. But catch you on the next one.